Hi, this is Lindsay Coyle, and I'm just making a quick video. This is part how I process things, and I write a lot, but videos actually help me too, just because sometimes the words don't flow, and with video, I try not to script it and just let whatever comes out comes out. So bear with me. Lots been going on. I recently unofficially announced that I'm running for mayor. And so the process of doing all the things has been going. And we have a house in the Crowsnest Pass that's pretty much complete, and we're putting it up for sale. And yeah, we're just kind of like at this point of like a lot going on in that aspect. And then the 215 children mass grave that was found in Kamloops, it really impacted me. And it took me being with it for a while to even try to comprehend like what was going on with me. And I still not 100%. So whatever, I'm just sharing to share. It kind of reminded me of when George Floyd video circulated, and I was impacted by that as well. And I never actually watched the video. I don't need to see bodies or a murder online to know that it happened. Consensus from the people is all I need, which leads me to the really uncomfortable part of why did consensus of the Indigenous people prior to the discovery of this mass grave not impact me. So I was like, oh, I don't know. The fact that all these things have occurred and have had a greater impact on us as a whole, for those of us that it did, are just in a spot where they can, I guess. So I've been sitting with that in the sense that I've been looking at myself. I've been a woman that passes as white my whole life, and I chose that, embraced that. I ignored my Métis roots, and I started really looking at like, where does this come from? Why do I do that? Like, what is there? And as soon as you start going in there or going in that direction, there's a lot of shame and guilt and things that you're like, oh, I remember growing up thinking that my grandpa wasn't proud of his Métis roots. But then I really started thinking, I was like, why do I think that? And I was like, because I started remembering my grandma and grandpa having their ceinture fléchée and having to watch this awful local television program with Red River Dancing on Sundays. I mean, I'm saying it's awful just because I didn't want to watch it as a kid, but on Sunday nights after dinners and stuff, we watched it. And so I'm like, well, I know we practiced our Métis culture back then. I just didn't know it was culture, or I didn't understand that. So I was like, well, why? And then I remembered my dad was telling stories about how my grandpa was a fighter. And apparently he had his share of scraps, and his brothers would all get in on it, and it was kind of this scrappy family. But he'd had a fight with some Indigenous people at a bar, and my dad said that was why he didn't like Indigenous. And as a kid, I didn't know that there was a difference between Indigenous and Métis. So I just thought he didn't like his roots. I was like, okay. I didn't ask any questions. I didn't really understand. And that's my lived experience of how it occurred to me. So right or wrong, truth or whatever, you don't know. Both my grandpa and my dad are gone. So it's like all I've got is my history and relatives and their take on what happened. I can tell as I share about my memories of my grandpa that I'm getting some of it wrong. And you know what? I will learn as I go, but I also have to look at that what I thought up until this very moment is also what made me who I am. So I was like, okay. So back then, Métis, I mean, I remember hearing half-breed and things like that before. Didn't really think anything of it, but now I'm like, oh. So there was a little bit of bad blood a bit in the 60s and 70s from in between some Indigenous and some Métis, and that happened. And I don't know, it just kind of, I didn't realize that. And I also am like looking at, I don't really stand and go, I'm Métis. I know that in the last couple of years that check box, when I'm registering my kids for school and all that, it literally has been 2 years now that I've checked the Métis box. 2 years, maybe 3. And my kids didn't even know. Like, I was having this internal thing going on about it, and I never even told them. They didn't even know that they're Métis, because we don't talk about it, which sucks. I mean, we talk about it now, and with what happened in Kamloops in the mass grave, my daughter said a couple of things that I was just like, because I was saying that some of these last survivors from residential school were the same age as me. And she said, well, you're Métis, so how come you didn't go? And I was like, and I'm like, well, we didn't, I don't know. Like, I was like, why is that? And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure this passes as white thing probably had something to do with it. I don't know. So there's a little bit of guilt about that. And then there's just like this shame in that I've known that I've Métis and I've never done anything about it. And in fact, I have family members that have all, gotten their Métis status, and I'm probably one of the last ones, and I don't know if I ever will. And it sucks because I'm like, I already feel like no matter what I accomplish, that people are like, oh, well, she's a woman and she's got all these things that are available to her as a woman in business or a woman in politics. And then you add, Métis, and then it actually, everybody acts like you got what you got, or maybe that's what I think, which I'm not proud of thinking. It's just, yeah. So I have never gotten my status because I don't want to benefit from something that I'm not practicing yet. And I'm not saying I won't, I'm not there yet. So this is like, I'm, figuring out who I am at 45 this year. I'm 44 right now. And I'm like, okay, these birds are loud. Yeah. I'm not here to tell you my discovery or how things are looking. I'm just sitting with a lot. And, I had a moment where, as a passes as white woman who was asked to help put on a vigil for the children, the Indigenous children that were found in Kamloops here, that I overstepped. And it was like a little hard on my ego. And then it was like, oh, well, I am Métis, but I don't actually say that. And it'd be pretty convenient for me to start saying that as a defense. So I didn't. And I'm like, okay. And then there's like this guilt about that. I'm like, I'm just, how my values and my integrity work and don't work. you know, make me kind of like I do this analysis. I'm like, well, where do I stand on this? On a lot of things. And sometimes I just react and just do stuff. And that's just who I am. So the vigil is still going on, even though I personally am not going to be able to be at it because yesterday my son tested positive for COVID. And we were swabbed this morning, and we're just looking at, we did our contact tracing, which was very, very small impact, but my kid did have school on Friday last week. He was symptom free. I guess it's 48 hours prior to symptoms, which technically it is even a stretch the Friday, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, and I did tell them that, and it was AHS's call, and we just got emails saying that there was a positive case, and I'm like, that was us. So there's that guilt and shame because you're impacting people around you, and I'm like, it's a virus. I have no idea where we got it from. It could have been from school for all we know, but it could also be from the park because my son and daughter ride their bikes. They go to the park. They went and got a Slurpee last week. I mean, they were symptom free, and this parenting during the pandemic and still letting your kids kind of live. Anyways, so yeah, there's just like this guilt and shame. And I'm intelligent enough to know that it's the virus and good people get the virus even if they do everything right. And I also know I didn't do everything right. I really thought it was a cold. It was like, actually on Monday, I thought it was just allergies or something because it was like a sore throat in the morning that was gone in the afternoon. It was completely fine. But then my daughter got a sore throat that night, and I was like, kept them both home. And then we got them swabbed, and the quick test came back negative on both my kids. And then at 7:30 in the morning on Thursday, it came back negative for my daughter. And then my son's didn't come back until 3 o'clock. I can't remember exactly. And it was positive. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're kind of just dealing with that and doing all the contact tracing and stuff. We don't know where he got it. We don't know where he got it. We don't know if anybody else could have been impacted by it. I mean, he was very little contact, but just being on their bikes and going to the park, it can happen, right? They've never been out while they were sick, but still. Yeah, it's a lot. And people are talking about the vaccines and how well they keep you protected, and I'm sitting here with one Pfizer going like, here's hoping. And my husband too, he was on shift. It just sucks being human and making mistakes or doing things that you would do differently if you knew better, or if you knew what you know now, like that hindsight kind of thing, and you're like, oh. So anyways, been sitting with a lot of that. And I don't know if I'm even going to share this video because it's kind of more of a cathartic, therapeutic thing for myself, to get my thoughts out of my head, process it, kind of see when I get it out what's actually there. So yeah, I'm processing, sitting with some stuff. I just hope everybody stays safe, healthy. I hope everybody can heal. And I'm going to sit here doing the work to become a better human being. Just sending love out to y'all. Okay? Take care. Bye.